What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about the history of Canadian maple syrup. I have reacted in the past to how maple syrup in Canada is made. And it's a fascinating process, and I thought, okay, maple syrup, that's really all there is to learn about it. But no. The other day I was pondering the mysteries of the universe, as I do often. And where does my mind go? Maple syrup. What is it about Canada and maple syrup? Why, out of every country on the planet, is Canada known for maple syrup? Why is Canada the leading manufacturer of maple syrup? Americans and probably the world at large all just is like, oh yeah, Canada and maple syrup, that's just been how it is since the beginning of time. But in order for me to sleep tonight, I need to find out, why is it that Canada became such a global leader in maple syrup production, of all things? Why is that? So that's what leads us here today, to uncover these kinds of deep mysteries. But seriously, I am actually very fascinated by this question. So today we have a video about the history of maple syrup and how it all got started in Canada. How did it get to now from the beginning? That's all I want to know. So with that being said, let's take a look. The history of maple syrup.
The whole world loves Canadian maple syrup, made
True.
in Quebec. Have you ever wondered how it was first discovered?
Made in Quebec? Does it have to be made in Quebec? Is most maple syrup made in Quebec? It's just funny that she points it out like that particularly.
Syrup, made in Quebec. Have you ever wondered how it was first discovered?
Yes.
We owe it to the First Nations people. Legend says they saw a squirrel drinking sap from a maple tree and decided to try it themselves.
I mean that's as good a story as any, right? It's just kind of funny to think about. Like, it literally all began with some individual like seeing a wild animal eating this goo out of a tree, and they were like, "Hey, let's try that stuff. What's that squirrel doing over there? That looks kind of good." And it turned out to be right. Maybe we need to go back to that kind of thinking, honestly, that unabashed creativity. What's that squirrel doing? I want some of that. That is funny, but honestly, when you go this far back in the day, that's how lots of things were honestly discovered, huh?
Without the sap, there would never have been maple syrup.
Right.
Even Jacques Cartier fell in love with the sugar maple tree and wrote about it in 1557.
Jacques Cartier. I know he was one of the early French explorers that discovered or explored parts of Canada or New France, stuff like. I learned about this recently, and some of it stuck.
Over many years, the First Nations people and Europeans exchanged ideas and ways to prepare it. When iron pots came from France, they were used to make maple sugar for the first time.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, that actually makes sense, huh? So someone finally brought over like a more technologically advanced pot, aka an iron pot, and they could actually like boil or distill the raw sap from the tree and make it more concentrated. Man, they were probably like, imagine when this first happened. Like, first of all, they're drinking it out of a tree to start with, and they're like, holy crap, this is good. Like, this changes everything, man. Like, this is my interpretation of what happened. Then, years later, they finally get to boil it in an iron pot, and it's like 100 times more concentrated, and they're like scooping it out with their little spoon. The first person to have that concentrated maple syrup, and they're like, whoa, this is, I mean, it would blow your mind. Like, it'd honestly be maybe the best thing you've ever tasted, like, considering all the foods that were even available.
Decades later, pots were replaced by the evaporator, patented by the Small Brothers in 1889.
Wow, in 1889. I'm actually shocked at how long ago so many of these like major like steps forward and innovations in maple syrup, like technology, for lack of a better word, maple syrup tech made huge strides like 200 years ago, 300 years ago. I wouldn't have expected that.
The first sugar shacks started in the 1850s, and
Sugar shack. What is a sugar shack? And it's almost 200 years old. The first sugar shacks?
sugar parties as early as 1868.
Sugar parties? Wait, sugar parties? What? Hold up. I'm gonna have to Google some of this, I think. Sugar shack? Canada? Sugar shack? This is bringing up actual restaurants. Sugar shack. Sucre de la Montagne. I hope I said that correctly. Oh, here we go. What is a Canadian sugar shack? Sugar shacks are small cabins in the woods where sap is collected from nearby maple trees, boiled into maple syrup through a technique developed by the indigenous, passed on to French colonizers of New France. Yeah. They are small cabins in the woods. Are you allowed to visit them? Are they still, like, existing today? An annual tradition begins at sugar shacks across Quebec. Oh, it's a small wooden house built in the middle of a forest for making maple syrup. Okay, I'll just leave it at that for now.
Started in the 1850s, and
So I guess the relevance is, like, these were like buildings or little cabins built for the sole purpose of maple syrup production. So that's kind of the step forward.
and sugar parties as early as 1868.
I don't the sugar party, like, I don't know what I gotta look at. I'm sorry, I gotta sugar party. I'm scared of what is gonna come up. Sugar party USA. No, that's a like brand. Nah, I don't think this is gonna work. Sugar party. Okay. Is it like a get together at the sugar shack and you're kind of enjoying all the maple syrup together, perhaps?
During all that time, ways to make maple syrup got better and better.
Yes.
But there was still one problem. It wouldn't stay good for very long. Between 1920 and 19...
That's funny to me, because I always pictured, like, syrup and stuff as having a really long shelf life, but I never buy maple syrup, really. I don't really have it very often. I just always kind of assumed it would last a long time. Maybe today they have better ways of preserving it, though. Maybe it does last a while.
There was still one problem. It wouldn't stay good for very long.
Okay.
Between 1920 and 1930, everything changed with the invention of the can. Maple
The invention of the can. I mean, I'm laughing, but it's just like the invention of a can. A can? It's a cylinder with a hole in it. But I think she means like a metallic can or a container that can be sealed. Like it's more than I'm giving it credit for. Like if you sent me back to 1920, I wouldn't be able to create a can. So what do I know? I shouldn't be laughing.
30, everything changed with the invention of the can.
Okay.
Maple syrup could now be kept for a long time.
Right. Yes. It can be sealed and preserved in that way. Okay. So Canada can really start going crazy, making countless containers and storing away the maple syrup. I've learned about, at one point a while ago, I learned about the Canadian maple syrup vault that literally is like thousands of sealed containers of maple syrup. So it's not even a joke. This all led up to that.
Replacing maple sugar as the favorite sweetener.
Replacing maple sugar as the favorite sweetener. Okay.
This preference is as strong as ever, and to this day, you'll find it in all the stores in Canada. Today, Quebec maple products are exported to more than 60 countries around the world.
Wow.
There are 11,300 maple producers, making a surprising variety of products like butter, sugar, spirits, and...
Spirits? Butter? I've heard of maple butter, never had it. Alcohol? Maple syrup alcohol? Really? Really? Canada? What have you been getting up to? Also, again with the Quebec focus, that might be because this no, I thought maybe this channel was like focused on history surrounding not only Canada but maybe Quebec. But is Quebec like a major maple syrup production hub in Canada? I'm pretty sure it's created in several parts of Canada, but maybe a lot in Quebec.
Surprising variety of products like butter, sugar, spirits, and specialty products.
Spirits.
They all come from here. Quebec provides 72% of the world's maple products, so people everywhere can enjoy them.
What? Not just Canada, Quebec alone. 72% of the world's maple product. I'm shocked that you can even get maple product then. Like, that sounds so, like, there's only so much, like, exporting of maple goods Quebec could do. To be 72%. Man, it makes me appreciate the maple syrup all the more. Oh, that's the end. That is the end. That was nice. That was a nice little video. I actually think that was, like, it was quite simple and useful. And it was by Maple from Canada. And I'm going to give that a like, for sure. Okay, in addition to this little video, I found some documentation to help as well. This little timeline I thought looked interesting. Going through, well, starting in the 1500s till now for maple syrup. We got Jacques Cartier becomes the first European to encounter a sugar maple tree. Encounter, it makes it sound like a wild animal. Like, it's a tree. He found a tree. And he had some of the sap. But I thought the video before this was saying that the indigenous Canadians saw a squirrel drinking it. And they wanted some too. Oh, here in 1623, the Huron are known to be consuming pure sap from maple trees. I wonder if people do that to this day. Is that safe? Can you just, like, drink it straight from the tree? What? I mean, who's going to stop you? Like, I guess I answered my own question. If you really want to, who's going to stop you? It's got a lot of water in it, though. It'd just be, like, really watered down maple syrup, right? 1676, maple sugar is being made from iron pots, like they said, which made it way more concentrated. 1700, maple sugar is a popular new curiosity in France. So I guess the explorers from France that were going to Canada were, like, getting word back to France, like, hey, you got to hear about this stuff, this crazy stuff. You're going to get addicted to it. And everyone was like, all right, sounds good. But seriously, I wasn't joking about that. It's like, if you're back in the 1700s and you encounter something like maple syrup, like, there's only so many things that bring you joy in life at that point in time. And finding this, like, delicious, incredibly wonderful substance to eat would truly be, like, a delight. It'd be like, wow, this makes life a lot better. And, hey, that's still true to today. Can't deny that. Maple syrup, still making people's lives a lot better. But we just have a lot more, food available. So it's, like, a lot more competition. But maple syrup's always going to be in demand, I think. People start having maple sugar parties. Okay, they just had to bring this up again. 1868, people start having maple sugar parties. I don't know. Let me type it in. Maple sugar parties? Parties. Canada. Does that come up with anything? The Sugar Shacks again. What are these what are these sugar parties? What's going on at these sugar parties? That's all I want to know. That's all I want to know. Okay, people are having maple sugar parties. Maybe I, like, just need to take it at face value and be like, it's a party where you and your buds get together and you have some maple sugar. End of story. 1850, the Sugar Shack is born. 1810, oh, I'm reading it the wrong way. Oh, no. Okay, we're going back to 1700, and we're coming. Okay, I'm going left to right on top. Now I'm in the second row. going right to left. My mistake. I thought the sugar parties happened after sugar shacks. All right, 1749, excuse me. New France colonists adapt maple sugar as their sweetener of choice. Then 1810, maple trees are being tapped with wooden spiles. That's a big step forward, like just inventing that way of gathering it. That was just in 1810, a long time ago. Then the sugar shack, then the sugar parties, then the metal pots and pails appear for gathering the raw sap and distilling it, I suppose. Then 1932, maple butter invented. Maple butter. I've never had maple butter. That sounds quite interesting. And there was also the invention of the maple sap evaporator. I can't believe that was in 1889. Like, we were already getting quite advanced with the maple tech. The maple tech. 1851, well, it makes sense. Like, if you're going to pour all your resources and innovation into something, maple syrup. Research. Come on. 1951, maple syrup first appears on store shelves in cans. Wow. 1970, you're connecting maple trees with tubing systems, which is still like that's the modern way to do it, right? To this day. 2005, vitamins, minerals, and many other molecules are invented or identified in maple syrup. The maple syrup molecule. The maple syrup molecule discovered in 2005. Nice. You know, some people have like the coffee molecule, like on a necklace they wear if you like coffee. You could have the maple syrup molecule, like on a necklace. Wear that thing. That'd be cool. In 2010, the discovery of Quebecol, a molecule unique to maple syrup. That's the maple molecule. That is the maple syrup molecule. It has a name. Quebecol. Oh my god, that's hilarious. That's fantastic. Oh my god, they discovered a molecule that's only in maple syrup, and it's named after Quebec. Quebec must be very important for Canadian maple syrup production. So, Quebecol. That is good stuff. Okay. Well, I feel much, much more informed now. I don't know. It's like, my other question, I guess, at this point would be, I understand that the Indigenous Canadians discovered maple syrup in Canada, and then mostly French explorers and French people got involved in it as well when they were traveling to Canada, and there were a lot of innovations, but what is it about Canada? Like, does Canada just have a bunch of maple trees? Is it as simple as that? Is there something about Canada's climate or something that is conducive to the production of maple syrup and maple sap, maple trees? That's the only other kind of question I have. So I have this article from, Quality is in Our Nature. Some kind of Canadian publication that has a little more about the history of maple syrup in Canada and maybe some explanations of why. Every spring in eastern Canada, as the snow begins to melt, the eagerly anticipated maple sugaring season begins. Canada produces 85% of the world's maple syrup. 85%. Quebec was making like 70%. And then the rest of Canada makes like 15 more percent. And Canada as a whole, 85% of the world's maple syrup. That's the thing that blows my mind right there. Why Canada? Why can nowhere else in the world do this? Now, mind you, I kind of like, between you and me, I kind of like that Canada has the monopoly on maple syrup. It's kind of fun, and it's like this at this point, it's like so Canadian. Like, I think everyone just wants maple syrup to be made in Canada. That's how you know it's good. I'm just curious why it can only be made in Canada. Or apparently 15% of it is made somewhere else on the planet. With forests brimming with majestic red, black, and sugar maples, the country has just the right mix of cold spring nights and warm daytime temperatures to produce an abundance of the clear-colored sap used to make maple syrup. Thank you. I think that's exactly what I was looking for. Canada is in the perfect temperature zone. Um, Boo-hoo to all the naysayers who say, oh, Canada gets too cold. No, no, no. Just cold enough. It's the perfect temperature for for sap production in the maple trees, if I'm reading this correctly. Canada has the right mix of cold nights and warm daytime temperature, and that produces the most sap in the maple trees, red, black, and sugar maples. So Canada has several types of maple tree and the perfect temperature for creating lots of delicious, juicy sap. That explains so much to me. That was a big part of the question for me. Fantastic. Wonderful. Okay. Canada's maple producing regions are located in the provinces of Quebec, but also Ontario, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia. Okay. Perfect. Maple syrup has long been part of Canada's cultural fabric. Canada's Aboriginal people taught early settlers how to harvest sap, and maybe some soap, who knows, sap and boil it to make maple syrup. Okay, awesome. Now enjoyed in 45 countries around the world. Canadian maple syrup products range from maple syrup to maple sugar, maple butter. What is all this maple sugar? I'd like to see the maple sugar. That's been mentioned a lot. Maple candy and products containing maple syrup, such as cereals, yogurts, and more. I can only imagine. I'll let my imagination run wild. Quality maple syrup, maple sugar production is a source of great pride for Canadians. Yes. Maple sap is about 97% water. Takes 40 liters of sap to make 1 liter of syrup. That's crazy. 40 liters of sap to make 1 liter of syrup. It baffles me that you can even get maple syrup. Takes 40 liters of collecting sap in the tubes, into the buckets, hauling it off to get boiled. 40 liters of that to make 1 liter of maple syrup. That is mind-boggling. I'm shocked maple syrup is not way more expensive, honestly. What else do we have here? They only collect enough sap for 1.5 liters of syrup from each tree so that the trees stay healthy. Very good, very good. World-class expertise. I have no doubt Canada is the de facto world leader in maple syrup. I don't think anyone's arguing with that. They're responsible for classification of maple syrup into 3 categories. Canada number 1, light, extra light, medium. Canada number 2, amber. Canada number 3, dark. There's actual classifications of maple syrup. What is the dark like? Is that just like almost a solid at that point? Solid maple syrup? You dump over the bottle and it comes out like this fast onto your pancake. It sounds like something that honestly would be fascinating to try. You can taste the difference, no doubt about that. Leading edge packaging. Anything else here? This is good stuff. This was a good article. And Canada's top 10 maple sugar and syrup markets. Number 1 is the United States, not too surprising. Number 2, Japan. Canada exporting a lot of maple syrup to Japan. I didn't know that. That's number 2 after the United States. Well, I'm proud. I'm proud now that we are buying up the most maple syrup from Canada. Makes me a little proud. Then Japan, Germany, UK, France, Australia, Denmark, South Korea, Switzerland, Netherlands. Everyone just wants a little of that Canadian maple syrup. Maybe a little more than a little, honestly. Okay, I'm satisfied. I think I can fall asleep tonight. This was just like a question that popped into my mind, like, why Canada? Why is Canada known for maple syrup? Don't just tell me it's because they make a bunch. Why do they make a bunch? How is that possible? And why Canada? Now I get it. Has to do with the climate, the temperature, the amount of maple trees available. And that all led to the interesting history at the beginning of how the Indigenous Canadians discovered it in the first place, because Canada was the perfect place to be to discover it. That kind of comes full circle, kind of answers all that for me. So perfect. I am at peace. And I enjoyed this, honestly. I did. Anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canada, Canadian culture, stuff about Canada that I have never learned before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.